We now return to Let's Play Coteries of New York. Let's learn some new terminology. Okay, Harpy. The domain herald, or Harpy, knows everyone and all their secrets, and will share them with others for the right price. Harpy is an originally negative epithet, but some wear it with pride, knowing the role of information broker is valued in any court. Final death, when a vampire ceases to exist, crossing the line from undeath into true death. Coterie, a small group of kindred, united by the need for support and sometimes common interests. The Anarch movement, a vampire sect that opposes the tyranny of elders and has placed itself outside the secret society of the Camarilla. And the Primogen Council represents the interests of the local kindred and advises the prince on matters of law and rule. Traditionally, it consists of representatives from each of the most prominent clans or factions in the domain, naturally favoring those of the Camarilla, though outsiders are allowed to report any issues to a Primogen not of their own clan. Primogen are often elders, but despite the term, Primogen from Latin means the firstborn, there are no rules in place that this is how it must be. In fact, during the last few decades, more and more councils have seen drastic changes to their structure. Okay, we wake up, we're hungry. Sophie wants to see us, but we probably need to deal with this on the way. For a moment, you let yourself wonder if there will ever come a night when it's just not there. Given what you've learned thus far, you probably have as much chance of kick-starting your heart with jumper cables. You lock the door behind you and head over to Sophie's apartment. You did promise to call on her, might as well not keep the lady waiting. And hey, what else are you going to do? Call Jess? Yeah, right. What would you tell her? Even if she picked up at all, she'd probably use the opportunity to stick some more needles in you, or worse, persuade you to come back. Or go back to work? Yeah, who are we kidding? HR probably found a replacement the day after you went missing. Nobody there cares if you got kidnapped or turned into a creature of the night. These thoughts put you in a weird mood. It's a strange sensation to walk the crowded streets, same as you have so many times before, but feeling so disconnected. All these people, you're not one of them, not anymore. You're a vampire, kindred, and you need to carve your own path in this strange new existence, one way or another. Appropriately enough, you arrive at Sophie's building just as that thought crosses your mind. A quick word with the security guard and you're let into the elevator. Apparently, Ms. Langley is expecting you. Of course she is. You knock and wait, patiently, as the footsteps on the other side grow closer. Finally, the door opens and Gregory, Sophie's driver, invites you in. You find the lady herself standing by the window, silhouetted against the city's midnight glow. She stares out, motionless, like a marble statue. He said click. Good evening, Sophie. She doesn't react immediately, but seems to snap out of some meditative state and looks at you with strangely bleary eyes. Yes, good evening, Eric. I was wondering, when you look out at this city, when you see the lights, hear the hum, smell the rain on the pavement, what do you think about? You gaze out. The lights and rain, the relentless honking below, music blasting from a nearby window echoing off the buildings. Someone should record an hour of this and throw it up on YouTube as an ambient piece. I'm willing to bet there is one. Other than that, though, it's business as usual. The sights, the sounds, the smells, you know them all too well. Sophie watches you. You can tell she's disappointed somehow, but she covers it up with a courteous smile. Well, not everyone can appreciate the intricacies that the world is offering. In fact, among kindred, my clan is somewhat notorious for finding innate meaning, even in the mundane. You see, the blood that flows within me is that of Clan Toreador. There are 13 such bloodlines among us kindred, though that number has been contested in the past, and these nights it seems that nothing is certain anymore. The clans have gone by many epithets over the years, but the names used these nights have their roots in medieval times, the original Inquisition, if you can believe it. They used to categorize us, describe our inherent differences. In time, we adopted them ourselves. Each clan has a uniqueness about it, inescapable, originating from an ancient progenitor, carried from sire to child. I would also like to point out that these 13 clans are basically beholden to the Masquerade setting. There are children of, or kindred of the East. There's an actually Islamic sect of vampires that have their own name. Yeah, it's worldwide, obviously. For the Toreador, the gift lies in a sensitivity of sorts. We are uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see either where most cannot. A blessing on most nights, occasionally a curse. The sheriff is of my clan as well, although you'd be hard-pressed to see him as such. Poor Kadir. It breaks my heart to see him in this state. Still, there is a beauty to it as well, nothing like a good fall from grace. Try as she might to act playful, you can tell she genuinely cares. She lets her gaze wander for a brief moment, but it is quick to regain her composure. Then there are the Ventru. Oh boy, are we going to go through all of them? Known for their pride and a proclivity to rule over others. The prince represents that clan, as is quite common in our society around the globe. Where the blue bloods think themselves rulers, the Bruja like to see themselves as preeminent revolutionaries. They call for universal rebellion, while being slaves to their own temper. So I'm supposed to be aggressive, more aggressive. We don't discuss the rabble much anymore, not after they've largely broken off from the Camarilla. To think they were philosophers once, long ago. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. And, how can I tell we wouldn't know that unless we knew my sire, or had dramatic irony and knew from the beginning. How can I tell a kindred's clan? Say I meet a vampire for the first time. How can I tell what their clan is? Usually you cannot, with a few exceptions, perhaps. For some clans, the uniqueness I mentioned bleeds into their appearance or disposition, like the Nosferatu, but even that can be misleading. Outside of a very few specific cases, knowing one's clan is less important than understanding who they are personally, what drives them, their wants and needs, weaknesses too. Speaking of which, we come to the reason I wanted to speak to you tonight. It is customary in our society, especially among younger kindred, to organize into coteries. Sometimes these are called by the prince themselves or mandated by a fledgling sire. In our case, you may treat it as more of a strong recommendation. I want you to seek out companions, not only because you need to learn more about our society, but also because it is useful. True friendships are rare among kindred, but having allies, even temporary ones, is something of a necessity. I can't read in this episode either. Something of a necessity these nights. We might be selfish creatures, but we are drawn to each other nonetheless. And do you have your own coterie? So tell me, are you part of a coterie? Any close allies? I do have those that I trust enough to work with, yes. Not a coterie exactly, though I have joined several of those over the years. Not in over a century, though. You, however, you would do well to meet some of the city's younger kindred and see if you can find a connection. It's an essential experience for one so young. She puts on a mysterious smile. I spent some of my precious time last night asking around, pondering potential kindred for you to meet. Came up with a short list of contacts. I hope you'll appreciate the gesture. Forging a partnership with them might offer perspectives and viewpoints that I cannot provide, lenses through which to view our kind. They're all members of the Camarilla, of course, more or less. Thanks, I guess? I know this might feel awkward, but trust me, it's the easiest way. You'll find you still have much to learn, and it's best if you have many tutors. So, let us start with the Tremere. They are a powerful clan, disliked by many, but feared and respected by many more. They have been an important pillar of the Camarilla since the very beginning. They are blood sorcerers. You look at Sophie with a hint of disbelief. Blood sorcerers? Pretty sure Mark from QA used to brag about having a level 70 blood sorcerer. Somehow you don't think he meant magical vampires. Sophie snickers. Oh, child, don't be caught with that look on your face when you meet a warlock in person. They really are adept at using vitae, their own as well as others, to unique and potent effects. Since they are quite rigid in their hierarchy, the kindred I had in mind for you might need some persuading. His name is Agathon. From what I hear, he is quite the scholar, very ambitious, the child of a noted Tremere here in New York, Aisling Sturbridge. Spend enough time with Agathon, and I'm sure you'll run into her sooner or later. A chance to meet an important person, then? So by getting to know this Agathon, I get closer to someone higher up the ladder. Yes, though not immediately, I would imagine. Aisling finds herself a somewhat precarious position both in the city and her clan. Every move she makes is heavily scrutinized, thus she has learned to tread lightly. Anyway, if you wish to contact the young Tremere, I hear you can usually find him in a New Age bookstore out on Broadway. The Tremere have one of their workshops there. Gregory will give you the details. Now, this next recommendation comes with a bit of a caveat. As you recall me saying, most bloodlines have unique features that might not be obvious at first glance. Well, there is one clan whose members wear this curse on their sleeve. The Nosferatu. Man, what's with the goofy names? Guess they're really big on Blue Oyster Cult. No wonder they make their havens in sewers, abandoned buildings and such. Their appearance is hideous and obviously unnatural. Had they walked the streets like other kindred, the kind would have learned of our existence long ago. Did she just shudder? It's hard to tell with her usual complexion, but you could swear her skin suddenly took on an even more sickly color. The one I have in mind isn't as big as an eyesore as the worst of them, but he is no Adonis either. Still, he has some talents and connections you might find useful. His name is D'Angelo, and he has an office, for lack of a better term, in the otherwise abandoned grain terminal in Red Hook. Right next to one of those Swedish stores. The name escapes me, the one with the awful furniture. We'll just glance over that. What connections does he have? You mentioned this D'Angelo has some useful connections. I was just getting to that. D'Angelo does odd jobs for Kadir, digging up dirt, locating kindred who would prefer to remain hidden, the kind of work the Nosferatu are best at. He's on a case right now. Something to do with kind murderers, I think. After your initial brush with our dear sheriff, I think it would be wise to show some goodwill towards his agenda. Assisting D'Angelo with his investigation might be just the thing. She takes a brief pause to look out the window again. Now come the two more exotic proposals. Exotic? As if the blood mage and the vampire detective were business as usual. You may have heard about the Gangrel before. I mean, I don't know why I would have, seeing as how I'm a new vampire here. They are a wild clan, in touch with their beast in a way others might not dare to attempt. They mostly keep out of big cities, but there are exceptions. Nominally, they haven't been part of the Camarilla for over 2 decades, but one kindred I would like you to meet has strong, shall we say, familial ties to the sect. Her name is Tamika. Her sire, Jezebel, was instrumental during the Battle of New York back in 1999, the very same battle that cemented the city as a Camarilla domain. Sadly, her achievements have gone largely unrecognized. Tamika and a number of her siblings still reside in the domain they were awarded after the battle, Prospect Park. Jezebel herself left the city some years ago, fed up with being underappreciated. Should I contact non-Camarilla clans? Boy, this is like, I want to know everything about this. But this will stand out, I guess, for this character. I got the impression contacting vampires who aren't in the Camarilla was frowned upon, but you're saying these Gangrel aren't a part of the sect anymore. How does that work? It's not as clear-cut. The Gangrel as a whole have sworn off the Camarilla, but individual kindred of that clan can still hold our ideals. Jezebel was one of them, before she became jaded. Besides, their domain in Prospect Park has been upheld by Prince Bernard for all these years, has it not? We consider them members of the sect, and they have, for the most part, kept to themselves. Perhaps it will take a young kindred such as yourself to make them realize where their loyalties lie. So you see, seeking out Tamika could prove quite educational if nothing else. And who knows, perhaps you will find her temperament to be a welcome change of pace. But, speaking of a change of pace, I have one last suggestion for you, though it's one I don't make lightly. The kindred who calls herself Hope. She's a Malkavian. They are a uniquely cursed clan. For centuries we considered them mad, insane, unhinged. But those of us who spend enough time with them come to understand the truth. It is no sickness, but a unique perception of the world that has them appear to be, well, to us, as unstable. And that perception can prove to be very valuable. Having a Malkavian as your companion might be taxing on the nerves and a true test of patience at times, probably not good for someone who's from a clan of angry vampires, but their insight and intuition are unrivaled among kindred. As for Hope specifically, she is said to be a recluse, but I have it on good authority that she can currently be found in an internet cafe, I believe it's called, in Lower Manhattan. Gregory has the address. An internet cafe? That's quaint. She doesn't sound like my type. Where did you learn about Hope? Well, say that one. Really? How quaint. I really wouldn't know. But since you brought it up, be aware the Camarilla is highly critical of using the internet to communicate. The Second Inquisition made sure of that. Exercise caution when at her haven. Well, I believe that's all of them. I still have a few social calls to make tonight, so I'll leave you to it. Use tonight and tomorrow night to arrange some cordial visits of your own. I will send Gregory for you as soon as I have further need of your services. She smiles once more and turns to her driver. He helps her put on her coat, and the three of you leave Sophie's apartment. Why is this not clicking? Stay safe, Eric. This is your first night alone. Don't let it be your last. As they drive away, you find yourself with more freedom than you've had for the past few nights. A blessing or a burden? Time will tell. With a list of addresses in hand, you consider your next move. I mean, we could just go in order, I suppose. It is, I guess, midnight? So let's go talk to... Well, let's start here. This is not in order, but, Jezebel's Childer. Sophie mentioned a gangrel neonate by the name of Tamika who's made herself a haven in Prospect Park. The Farrells aren't exactly a social bunch, even by kindred standards, but if you can keep her from clawing your eyes out just long enough, she might be persuaded to join you. Okay. Well, me personally, I was thinking we'd go with her because, again, the gangrels are also an Anarch clan. But if it is true that we don't necessarily need to become Anarch to fulfill the storyline here, maybe she's not the best. Although, she would probably be pretty badass. Gumshoe in the dark. A recent string of violent killings has the Red Hook district of Brooklyn on edge. Sophie mentioned that Kadir Al-Azmai has a secret associate investigating the murders, a Nosferatu neonate by the name of D'Angelo. If you help him out, he might be persuaded to perform a lasting partnership. Searching for Hope. Sophie suggested you meet Hope, a recluse member of the Malkavian clan. She's supposedly holed up in an internet cafe in Lower Manhattan. And then it's a kind of magic. Sophie's mention of a vampire clan of blood sorcerers sparked your attention. One of them, Agathon, could potentially be your introduction into the bizarre powers of the Tremere. So we can only choose one, huh? Well, seeing as how he's from Sophie's clan, she'd probably like that. I don't know what Tamika's powers would be. I feel like if we went with the Malkavian, Hope would be interesting? And this, I don't know. I feel like story-wise this would make the most sense. Helping a guy out, because otherwise we're just like cold-calling these other people and being like, you want to be my friend? So, not to give anything away, I am strongly considering going maybe Anarch. I know nothing about the plot of this story. The only thing I know anything about from this game is from the art book that came with the digital version, or the deluxe version, I should say, which gives you just a very brief hint at some of the characters in the game. As was mentioned before, there was that vampire Callahan that the thug talked about, his boss. We're probably going to meet him at some point. And then there's going to be that dilemma, which side do you choose? Anyway, let's go talk to Tamika. You make your way through the Grand Army Plaza, passing the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Arch. You can't help but feel a tinge of nostalgia as you picture the place as you've seen it countless times, in broad daylight, teeming with life. You quickly get over it and pass through the Northwest Gate into Prospect Park. The park is its usual maze of unkempt foliage and dimly lit alleys. Silence hangs in the air as it would at this time of night, and there doesn't appear to be any sign of kindred presence. You start to suspect Langley's sources fed her a bunch of bullshit, but you're not willing to give up just yet. As you ponder your options, you hear footsteps coming from behind a line of trees. Quick, but evenly paced, most likely a late-night jogger. No vampire would take kindly to you feeding in their domain, but then again, perhaps you could kill two birds with one stone. I mean, didn't they say take a feeding opportunity as much as you can? But we're not hungry right now. We're not seeing the blood thing, so let's seek out the Gangrel Haven. Maybe this will be a goodwill thing. You head south, delving deeper into the less frequented frequented section of the park. Passing a babbling stream, you make your way into the ravine. Home to some of the oldest trees in the park, it's the place to go when you want to get away from the crowd and enjoy some one-on-one time with nature, and that's during the day. At night, it's bound to be a gangrel's delight. Making your way through the brush, you come across a rocky crevice hidden behind a wobbly chain-link fence. You leap over the fence in a single bound, trying to land as quietly as kindredly as possible. So, suddenly we seem to have jumped into a large acceptance and knowledge of being a vampire. The crevice looks deep enough for you to think twice about jumping in. Instead, you peer into the darkness below, listening intently. In a split second, the air by the side of your head swirls like a vortex. Driven by sheer instinct, you lean back just as five finger-shaped razors cut through the darkness, missing your face by an inch. The clawed shadow jumps back a few paces, preparing to correct its mistake. You catch a glimpse of the assailant. Looks pretty animalistic, all right, but he's not the one you're looking for. For starters, it's a he. Just as he's about to lunge at you, a snarl resounds from the bushes nearby, stopping your foe in its tracks. Out of the shadows emerges a young woman, baring her teeth ever so slightly. She walks over calmly, her eyes fixed on your assailant. Her presence is enough to make him reconsider attacking you, but not to withdraw completely. He glances over to her, puffing up his chest. "Stay out of it, Tam. I smelled him first." "Tam, how about that?" She raises an eyebrow, but remains silent. Her compatriot turns back towards you. "You shouldn't have come here, pretty boy. I'm gonna fuck you up so bad you'll be wearing your tongue as a fucking necktie." Tamika looks at you, expectantly. "Easy there, I'm not looking for a fight." "You've made your point, okay? Confirmed badass. I'm not looking for a fight." Tamika tilts her head in a way that's barely noticeable, and yet strangely expressive. She seems disappointed. The man loosens up, his lips twisting into a wry smile. Clearly, you just gave him the confidence boost he needed. "Funny, you don't look like a pussy. You don't smell like one either. So why are you acting like one, huh? Well, guess what? You ain't getting off that easy, chicken shit." A fierce growl echoes across the alley, stopping the savage in his tracks. Tamika walks over to her comrade, her fangs glistening in the dim lamplight. She puts her hand on the side of his head, caressing his hair and tugging at his ear as if she was scolding a puppy. She leans over and speaks in a voice that's firm, yet oddly affectionate. "It's okay, Raoul. I'll handle it from here." The male gangrel looks at her with a mix of timidity and resentment. Then he turns back towards you. "Fine. They're not worth the effort anyway." Having said his piece, Raoul retreats into the shadows, although if you were to guess, he's likely to stay within earshot. With her companion gone, Tamika turns to you once more. "What do you want?" Straight to the point. I like that. "I don't care what you like. Now quit stalling. You have something to say. Say it." I'm looking for partners. I come with an offer. I'm willing to offer you my services, such as they are. All I would hope for in return is a fruitful, long-lasting relationship. What is this? Really? So you want to help me with something, because you want to be my friend. That about right? That's right. Well, that sounded better the way I said it, but yeah, that's the gist of it. Uh-huh. She puts on a veneer of skepticism, but you can tell she's intrigued. "It's very earnest of you. It's also kind of silly, but I think I'm okay with it. What I'm not okay with is putting my ass on the line and getting stabbed in the back for my trouble. So, why exactly should I trust anything you say? You haven't even asked my name. We don't know who we are." This isn't like Jezebel. Wow, that's probably going to trigger something. I can make it worth your while." Her expression sours in an instant. "For a moment there, you almost had me fooled. I should have known better." Tamika looks to the side as if you've hurt her feelings. From what you've seen so far, it's an oddly emotive reaction for her. Okay, I was with the story up until this point. This seems very awkward and forced. Like, what is going on here? Quick to realize it, she straightens up and turns her piercing gaze towards you. "We have nothing more to talk about. We started off wrong. Look, clearly we started off on the wrong foot. Yes, you did. Now leave. I'll only ask once." "Okay, well, we fucked that one up. And with that, you take your leave. You know better than to argue with a scorned gangrel. Still, you can't help but feel a tinge of regret. This could have been the beginning of a beautiful friendship. See, I wasn't offering anything sexual. I was just, I mean, I could do something for you. Like, that was what we opened with. We could be friends. I came here to offer my assistance. Okay, well, we fucked that up. Are we supposed to maybe read this stuff to get a little bit of clues here? Gangrels are outcasts, wanderers, rogues, and hunters. They make havens in the poorest parts of the city and feel no shame for doing so. They claim few domains as their own, but defer to no prince. If a feral enters a city, the prince will either accept it or have to fight the feral to get them to back down. Gangrel embrace from the ranks of survivors and fighters, leaders of prison crews and gangs, explorers, urban and otherwise, and any kind who see the world as something to traverse instead of something to hide from. They care not for looks or title, but for accomplishment and reputation. They are commonly referred to as wolves, ferals, and outcasts, or in a more derogatory manner, animals, strays, and savages. So we probably should have, I guess, acted aggressive at the beginning of that. Okay, well. Damn, I didn't realize this was that easy to screw up. What if we do it with all of them? If we bork all of these, are we done? Well, anyway, we'll try someone else next time.